I hear my little brother yell, so I whip my head around and see smoke coming down our short staircase. Kevin is upstairs getting ready for bed. Our baby sister, Jennifer, is sleeping in the adjacent room at the back of our small house. Mom and I are in the kitchen washing dishes, and my father is working the night shift at Con Edison. I race after my mom to the top of the stairs, where we see the flames. This is real, I think. I am 12 years old, and our house is on fire. We gotta move. I grab Kevin's hand as Mom runs through the thickening smoke to pluck Jennifer from her crib. We bolt down the stairs and out the front door and make it to the street, where we wait for fire trucks. More than the screams of sirens getting closer, the sound that resonates is the calm voice of my mother and the words she speaks as we stand by the curb, our second story ablaze. It's okay, she keeps saying, holding Jennifer in one arm and wrapping the other around Kevin and me. This isn't a sad moment. It's a great moment. We've all gotten out safely. We've been through worse, and we will get through this. Again and again, she repeats this pledge like a lullaby. I believe her because she believes it, and because Mom was right, we had gotten through worse. Home base. I was born in Flushing, New York, in the borough of Queens in 1961. During my first 10 years, my parents, my two brothers, my sister and I lived in a succession of working-class neighborhoods on New York State's Long Island, places such as College Point, Hicksville, Babylon, Brentwood, all blue-collar towns where my parents moved us from one rental apartment to another. Eventually, we landed in a small, foreclosed house on Meadow Lane in the waterside town of Amityville, New York. The year we moved in, Amityville had yet to become known for its other house, that large Dutch colonial on Ocean Avenue made infamous by the Amityville horror movie posters. People in Amityville would call it the Horror House, and tourists drove into town just to see it. My family's home was a quarter the size of the Horror House, but roomier than any of the apartments we had lived in previously. Located on the working-class side of town, our house had been so neglected by its previous inhabitants that when we moved in, as renters with an option to buy, we found dead squirrels and rats in its walls once we started to fix it up. We rebuilt the house while living in it, which felt like changing a fan belt while driving 60 miles an hour. But we had no choice. We were lucky to have found a house we could afford, and fixing it up felt like a privilege and a family affair. On weekends, relatives and friends descended upon our narrow slice of property with hammers and ladders, kindness, and maybe my favorite jelly donuts that my grandparents brought in from Stork's, a German bakery in Whitestone, Queens. Everyone worked together, reinforcing wood girders, replacing sheetrock, reskinning the exterior with aluminum siding, all in a flurry of camaraderie that would one day remind me of that Amish community barn-raising scene from the 1985 movie Witness. My father would write checks for the materials as he got the money, and thanks to the generosity of friends and family, most of the labor was free. For more complicated stuff, my papa, a general contractor and construction foreman for the high-rises going up along the nearby Rockaway Peninsula, called in an expert electrician or plumber to handle a job on the cheap. The renovation brought our house up in value, and my parents were finally able to pull together enough money for a down payment on an $18,000 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. For my parents, home ownership was a step up and a great source of pride. For me, it was home and the happiest place in the world, despite its imperfections. Even spruced up, ours was still the kind of house you could drive by hundreds of times and not notice. And because of the flooding, it was in a constant state of repair. The structure sat on an uneven slab of concrete next to the canal that ran behind the house, which meant that when big storms hit, water poured into our first floor. The canal overflowed into our house with such predictability that with every warning of heavy rains, my mother began placing a 2-foot-tall statue of St. Jude, the patron saint of hopeless causes, in front of the house. If anyone could hold back the flood, it would be St. Jude. Eventually, the statue itself would also be underwater. All that flooding formed stress cracks in the walls and the house's foundation, so as time passed, it no longer required an overflowing canal for water to find its way inside. Even after a light rainfall, one of us would have to hike to the hardware store to rent a wet vac. Sucking up puddles in our living room became as routine as shoveling snow.